What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Justin here, and are you ready to set some intentions this week? You know, we got a pretty light one this week, but still very impactful transits. We have the nodes that are going to be moving into new signs. We got Venus and Big Papa, who are in a bit of a tougher conversation, but when we're talking about the benefics, they're just play fighting. But the last transit is a little less playful, because we have the Sun that's going to be opposing Mars retrograde, and we'll get into all of that here in a moment. But if you're new here, again, my name is Justin, and one of the things that I do on this channel is talk about the Celestial News Weekly, the chit-chat that goes on up in the sky. And I'll be covering the week of January 9th through the 15th. Let's get into this thing. Because on January 11th, that's a Saturday, at about 3:02 p.m., and that'll be Pacific time, we have the nodes that are going to be entering into Pisces and in Virgo. Now, the nodes spend about 18 months in a sign at a time. And so these new portions of our chart are where the eclipses are going to be happening. We have one more eclipse that's going to be happening in the Aries part of our chart a little bit later this year. But after that, it's going to be nothing but Virgo and Pisces for the next year and a half. And when you think about the North Node, this is about where the North Node, or the Dragon's Head, is about where you're going. You know, what do you want to accomplish? How do you want to improve on this portion of your chart? As opposed to the South Node is the past, or where you've been. And I feel like, too, is a place that you call upon when you reach that fork in the road. And it's like, okay, do I want to continue this trajectory, or am I ready to shift? So look to see what house or houses that you have Virgo and Pisces in, because these are going to be some great these are going to be the areas that are going to see these changes and feel these eclipse energies more potently. And also, too, if you have mutable placements, this is going to be working with you a little more, like kind of, because they're forming squares and oppositions with your signs. So if you have Gemini, Virgo, Sag, or Pisces, you want to Pisces placements, you want to pay attention to those more so as well. Those maybe work a little more intimately with you. But overall, you know, whether this be, let's say this is falling on maybe your Leo rising, and this is happening in your 8th house, your money axis, your 8th house and your 2nd house. Maybe you're thinking about the ways, the past of how you made money and how you've been accumulating resources. And now with that North Node in Pisces in that 8th house, maybe you're thinking about, well, okay, what does my legacy look like? Where do I want to invest this stuff in? How do I want to share these resources and maybe take my skills and put this stuff out there? Or maybe you're a Pisces rising, and so maybe you're thinking about the past relationships that you've had and think about who the person you are now, and do you feel like that's who you want to continue to be, or are you ready for a reinvention in a sense? So working with the nodes can be very powerful. You know, and especially when you're just having these transits go through in general, I think that it is a great invitation just to look at how you work with the nodes in your chart in general. That's always a thing to kind of look into. But I also think, too, that it's always great to think about how the opposing signs complement each other, because they have more in common than they don't. You know, they have. So when you're talking about Pisces, they're traditionally ruled by Big Papa, Jupiter, who's all about that expansion of worldview, that growth and movement. And then Pisces is that mutable water sign and feminine in nature. So there's this receptivity, and they work well with the emotions, a very and I'm talking about just Pisces energy in general. And it's very, very sensitive to the energies around them. And where I feel that what I think that Pisces does for Virgo is that Pisces gives Virgo imagination. It reminds them that it's not just all about the physical, you know, like just like trying to solve the things, you know, or it's not about, like, how do I want to put that? I feel like it helps them get out of their head, allows them to relax more and just kind of dip into that subconsciousness more to be able to connect with source. Because sometimes I feel if you get too involved in material, that can affect that connection with the higher realm. So that's just one thing. But on the flip side, Virgo, they're ruled by Mercury. Mercury is about how we reason, communicate, and Yeah, amongst other things. And Virgo is the mutable earth sign, and they're also feminine in nature. There's this receptivity that goes on with Virgo, but Virgo works very well in the earthly realm with the physical plane. And Virgos are great problem solvers. You know, they get that natural intelligence with that Mercury energy. And what I feel Virgo, or what I think Virgo does for Pisces, is that Virgo takes those, because with Pisces, you could have a symphony and just hear the most beautiful music, or maybe you see the most vivid of paintings, just really rich imagination. But if you can't put it out there, then it's just like you're the musician artist that no one's ever heard of, and it's just, so I feel like Virgo helps puts that stuff into practical application. So just some things I feel like they're just kind of little extra things to just kind of reflect on there. But let's get on into the next transit. Because on a Mars day, how appropriate, on a Mars day, the 14th of January, at 11:48 a.m., Venus is going to be forming a square with Jupiter, who's retrograde. And this is happening at 11 degrees and 59 minutes. Venus is in Pisces and Jupiter is retrograde in Gemini. Now, the square aspect is one that there's Martian in nature. That's why I said how appropriate. But I like to think of it as like has that Mars quality to it, where there's this action that need to be taken. Sometimes there might be some frustration, some tension, some agitation that may come up with the square energy. But when we're talking about the benefics, Jupiter is going retrograde in our Gemini portion of our chart, and it's reflecting on how we've been growing, how we've been expanding, and where we've been moving towards. And in Gemini, where he finds his detriment and him retrograde, maybe things have been just kind of all over the place. Maybe you've been moving all over everywhere. It's like you've been doing all of the things, but nothing is getting accomplished. That's what Jupiter and Gemini can kind of feel like. You have 20 books started, and then just like, you know what I mean? So that Jupiter is reflecting, I feel like Jupiter's reflecting right now over this portion of Gemini, how you've been growing, the things that you've been learning, how useful is that stuff. And then this Venus in Pisces, this is where Venus finds her exaltation with. So I feel like what Venus is doing is allowing us to kind of get out of our heads a little bit and to dip more into to be a little bit more receptive. It's just like, is this really the things that I want to attract? Do I feel at peace with the relationships that I'm in, with the situations that I'm in, the things that I've been attracting? Because now this Venus is able to switch things up. If you've been maybe took one direction and now you want to pivot, that's how I feel this could be one way of working with this square. And that's where the tension is that it's just, it may not be easy, especially if you've been going on one trajectory and then needing to do, let's say maybe you had a project that you were starting and maybe you realize that you have to scrap the whole thing and start from scratch. Where yes, that may be frustrating, the square energy, but it gives you a chance to work with something new, that Venus in Pisces, and be more in alignment with what you want to create and where you see yourself going and the things and relationships that you're attracting into your world. So those are just some things I would say to think about when we're working with this transit. Then the last one, the oh so fun one, on a Mercury day, the 15th of January, at about 6:38 p.m., the sun is going to be forming in opposition with Mars, who is retrograde. And this is happening at 26 degrees and 13 minutes. The sun is in Capricorn and Mars is in Cancer. Now, this is, unlike Venus, who's in her exaltation, Mars is now entering back into his fall again. And this isn't his first time in Cancer. He's just now entered back in there. So, but in that Mars in Cancer can be very reactive and is one to shoot first and ask questions later, and that sun is our life, represents who we are, at a soul level. And it's like, has this been that? And let me backtrack. Let's talk about the opposition. The opposition, that's when the planets are 180 degrees apart. So they're in opposite signs, just like the North and South node. And they can bring, I like to think of them as like with like a full moon. This is like that expectations versus reality with the opposition. And this opposition could be Saturnian in nature. And this could see where maybe if you haven't been disciplined, maybe you've been... Because to me, Mars in Cancer is one that is about emotional responsibility, and it's not anyone's job to manage our emotions but us. And if you've been noticing that there's been a lot of maybe chaos, or that you've been maybe more reactive as of late, or you haven't been expressing yourself at your fullest, how can you adjust that? Because Mars isn't useless in Cancer. Don't get me wrong. Just because he's in his fall, it just means that there's a more potential to fall into his negative qualities. And even when Mars is retrograde, it's not that Mars is working less. If anything, Mars is more exacerbated when he's retrograde. And so I would say this would be a great time, because Mars is like our energy, our drive, our passion, and how have we been following in our light? Because that Sun in Capricorn is thinking about the long term, because the Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. And so I would say that this oppositions are great evaluations, period. I have a lot of oppositions in my chart, but I feel like they're really great. Just kind of evaluation times. It's just like, all right, this is where things are. This is where things have gotten to. You know what? Like, either I'm feeling really good about this, or it's like, yeah, it's time to do something different. Like, I may have, I think that Mars in Cancer could sometimes potentially lose himself in the feelings, and I can even see this too. Maybe that Mars is getting a lot of, was maybe feeling inspired, or feeling like wanting to move life in one direction, or is maybe getting these ideas, these downloads, that sun energy, but just not sure how to go about achieving them. And that Mars in Cancer doesn't want to make a misstep, doesn't wants to, So I would say with this, just pay attention to how you've been just kind of moving through here as of late, and how you've been picking up, because that Mars in Cancer is very receptive too, with that water energy. So that's something to pay attention to, how others' energy has been affecting your own, maybe have been even oppressing your will as well, or maybe been getting in the way of your dreams or your goals as well. So just some things I think to just it can be like a bit of a tougher transit. I could see this just like being where, don't be too tough on yourself. I could see this as just like feeling a lot of frustration, maybe, just like feeling maybe defeated, something along those lines. But I feel like it's just like, okay, it is what it is, with the opposition. This is where things are at. We can only move forward from here. So, and Mars is all about moving forward, but, well, at least, when he's direct. But, just kind of evaluate this Cancer portion of your chart compared to the Capricorn, and how you've been moving through this, and how you've been, just how you've been moving. So, and if you're wanting to work more intentionally with these transits, down in the description box is a link for all of the services that I provide. So definitely check that out if it resonates with you. And also down below, especially while Mars is in Cancer, if you want to work with the moon more closely, I have a link for my other channel also down there, the Chariot and Friends, where I do talk more about the lunar transits, and I do tarot card readings there as well. So definitely check that out if you're interested. But until next time, keep raising that vibration and something else. And I will get myself together on the next one. Mercury Day.